Hi there. Welcome to Women in Business, where I share the real-world stories of fabulous women who've made their mark in the business world. In this podcast, we look at the educational and professional journeys and their choices, as well as the aha moments that have led each of my guests to their success. When I started my business, I didn't know anything about the opportunities that were out there. But over time, and especially during the pandemic, I've seen women pivot their careers, create new careers, and shape their own futures. My hope for our listeners, whether you're a young girl dreaming big or a woman ready for a change, that you can find some inspiration in these interviews and see all the different possibilities that are out there for you and become inspired to create your own journey and go your own path. So let's get started with this week's guest. Thank you for coming along to do this podcast with me. Tell everybody, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, thanks for having me, Erin. So my name is Hannah, and I normally, say that I'm a colourful, playful web designer who specialises in Squarespace and Shopify, and I help creative businesses to, splash their colourful, bold personalities all across their website. And I'm well known for having really playful websites.
I've got to say, I was drawn to your Instagram because obviously I'm brightly coloured, and so therefore I gravitate towards brightly coloured people. So yes, I like your Instagram for all of that.
Yeah, I do love my branding. It's really cool, and I think since I had my rebrand, I've just gone crazy with the website and social media. I just love the
why
bold
not?
colours.
Exactly, but why not? If you really like that colour and find that that's you, well, why don't? I mean, I got into this game like later on, 44 when I started my business. I'm 48 now. Oh dear God. But
48 young.
but thank you. But when I was working in a school, obviously you have to have a certain, not style, but you can't go into school in yaks and your brightly coloured stripy dungarees and things like that. And I didn't. And when I was a kid, I was never really that colourful. Again, I felt like I cared too much about what other people thought, which is what you do when you're younger.
Yeah.
So when obviously my disability happened, it was like, do you know what? I am going to do exactly what I want, and I don't care how old I am. I'm just going to go for it. Dyed my hair, got dungarees.
Oh, I love
never
it.
out of dungarees. And
Yeah.
when people say, "Oh, I love your colour," my first response is, the world can be so dark and grey.
Yeah.
I am going to find colour wherever the hell I can get it
Exactly.
and make sure that people see it.
But
So
that's
I'm all
crazy that
behind the colour motion.
Yeah, exactly. Dopamine dressing. I mean, it's crazy though. Like, I just thought school is the perfect place to bring color in. But maybe
Yeah,
not.
it is for the kids,
Yeah.
but you have to have a certain level of professionalism.
Yeah.
So if your nurseries and things like that are probably, it's all about uniforms and stuff. So
Yeah.
I went through a very big stage of when you're teaching, the easiest thing to do is get one of those jumpers that have the fake shirts underneath. Fake shirts. So it's just the collar, really, that's attached to the jumper. I went through years of wearing those, black trousers, black jumper, white shirt underneath, looking professional. So I'm professional now, but I'm just colourful and professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Hannah, back to the beginning. We go back to, I feel like I should have like a time warp sound. Ooh. Back to when you were a kid. What were you into as a child? Were you creative? Were you happy? What subjects did you like as you were going through primary, secondary school?
Yes, I think I was very creative since a young age. My mum was always kind of trying to get us to do stuff like paper mache or kind of cutting out stuff. So it was always at home without me realizing my mum was creative. She worked in, I guess, an embassy, so she was always very professional and stuff. So I never really assumed she was creative. But yeah, it was always in my life. And when I was in school, I grew up in the Middle East, so there wasn't really a range of different art classes. It was just fine art and design, technology, graphics. So obviously those two are my favorite subjects because it just allowed me to be creative. So yeah, I definitely knew I was always creative from the beginning. But weirdly, I realized that one of my favorite lessons in school was also maths. And I think that kind of shows you a bit of how my brain kind of works. And I love like problem solving and analytical. So that's like quite the side of me that maybe lends itself really well to web design and problem solving that way. But yeah, I loved. I was, I guess, out of my friends, they were all kind of going to do law or business, and I was only one who actually decided to do something creative for uni because I was just like, no, I'm I'm not going to be doing any of that. Like, I I was never really trying to find a career that would make me loads of money. I just knew I wanted to do something creative and just kind of like see where it took me. So after school, I went to do the foundation course. There's a lot of people who want to do design or art
Can I
to
stop
do.
you there before you go too far ahead? You grew up in the Middle East.
Yes.
So whereabouts in the Middle East?
So I grew up in Saudi Arabia, which is the country where there's no alcohol and women couldn't drive back when I was living there. And then also Bahrain, which is a tiny little island near there, which yeah, it's really small.
And when
So
did
I
you come
went
to the UK?
for uni. So from
Right,
18.
right. So you
Yeah.
did all secondary right up to there, and then did you choose you to come to the UK for a particular reason, or were you coming here anyway? Or
Yeah. So I was always in a British school anyways. I was doing the British curriculum and my mum was British, so it was always a plan to we always had a kind of foot in the door with England anyways, but I just always knew I wanted to come here because the universities are great. So yeah, I came to university. But like I said, I grew up in the Middle East. I guess my formative years when I was a teenager, I was growing up in Bahrain, which is a tiny little island where everyone knows everyone, and it doesn't take very long to get from one side to the other. So it's very small, and there's probably not much to do. So I went from that, where everyone knew everyone, to London to do my foundation course at Central St. Martin's. And it was a big culture shock for me. I
I
was
can
like,
imagine,
what?
you know, I only live up north, and coming to London is a big culture shock for me.
Yeah, it's such a
It's
big city,
massive.
and I think going from a tiny island where, yeah, you just have such a close knit community to that was just so much for me. But I did love the course; it was cool. But I went to Central St. Martin, so it was quite fashion heavy, and I was like the only one who was wearing just like jeans and a t-shirt, whereas a lot of people made their own clothes and were very colorful and stuff, and I just felt really like shy and scared, and I was like, this maybe I'm not as creative as I thought I was going to be.
Oh,
I guess in terms of creativity, I think I was like a big fish in a small pond because I was like one of the most creative people in my school. But then I went to a place where everyone is so creative. So that was, yeah, quite a big thing. So then after the foundation course, I went to the tiniest university in the UK, probably Loughborough, which is a
no,
campus
no, I've
uni.
heard of Loughborough. Yeah, I've heard of Loughborough.
Yeah, it was good. I don't think it's well known for the design side of things, but I think I just realized quite quickly that I needed a kind of close knit community vibe. I think having people that I know, like I don't want to be alienated. So I think I
Mm.
realized that was quite important to me.
Did you know anybody in Loughborough, or did you just up and
I
go from
went
London to
with a
Loughborough?
friend who I knew in foundation. We both went to Loughborough together, and I did know a couple of people from my school in Bahrain, but I was kind of open to meeting new people and stuff. And my family, well, my mum's from Nottingham, so I had family not far away. So if I
Mm.
needed anything, it was like literally half an hour away, but I was trying to stay away as much as possible.
Oh yeah,
Be
that inhibits.
independent.
Yeah. So is your mum still in Bahrain when you came to the UK?
Yes, yeah. So she was there, my brother, and I came by myself. So it was, yeah, a
That's
big,
a big thing. It's
yeah,
hard at 18 to, well, I wouldn't say it's hard. It's like every 18-year-old, and I would definitely was one of them, very eager to leave home at
hmm
18. But it's also a big culture shock for every 18-year-old to think,
yeah,
oh, yeah, this is going to be dead easy, to suddenly realizing, oh, no, I've got to pay these bills, not get into debt, and I can't go out drinking every night. You probably
yeah.
don't figure that out till year 3. But in years 1 and 2, you give it a try. But
Well, I think,
to go another country on your
yeah,
own shows like quite a
there's a
drive
lot.
and bravery to go at 18.
Well, I think as well because the first year was technically London, so I went to London where I didn't drink or anything, so I wasn't too bothered about bars and everything. But I think going from driving around everywhere to London Underground and being surrounded by people who could be like, professionals and like so many different people and you don't know who's who. That was such a big thing. And I remember my mum and grandma, they came with me to London to kind of drop me off and stuff. And I remember we went to see a show in Victoria And then they just said, okay, right, here's your bus. See you later. And I was like, what? I have to go by myself? It was really scary. But I think it was probably quite good for me because it really pushed me out of my shell. I think I was really shy then. I was quite a shy kid growing up. Yeah, I have a really loud mum, so I think I probably didn't have a chance to talk.
That's probably
But
what my boys say about me. I have a really loud mum.
yeah. So I think I was very shy and probably didn't really know how to get out of my comfort zone and everything. So probably being thrown in the deep end in London was probably really good for me.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a lot.
If you'd had enough time to think about it, you might have, oh no, I don't want to do that. Well, I'm impressed for any. I have friends who they were in America and their kids came to the UK for university because there were better universities, they thought
Mm,
at the time. Um,
yeah.
so once you finished university, and what was your first job? Did you just walk
Um,
easy into a job or did you go do something completely different?
Yeah, so I think I was really lucky. I mean, I guess, yeah, lucky in a way. After uni, even though during uni I wasn't really like maybe the best student, I didn't like presenting and proposing my projects and speaking, public speaking and stuff. So I probably wasn't the best student for my tutor and everything. But then at the end of the course, there's like a D&AD exhibition, which is where all the people in the industry can go and visit works from all the kind of top students from the country, and then maybe pick and choose who they want to work for them and stuff, and give them jobs. So I was at that with my university, and I didn't realize, but there was some judges going around, and they gave me and my creative partner an award, which for an infographic that I worked on. So that was really cool. So I think because I won that, a lot of people came to see my work during that exhibition, and someone was talking to me, and it turned out to be someone in a publishing company, and I think we were just chatting, and she really liked my, I guess, talk, the way I was talking about my work and other people's work. So I think 3 weeks later they offered me a job, and I was like, oh, sorry, but I've got a holiday first. Can I come after? So I got a job from that, and that was actually my first and last ever proper design job, in a way.
And where was that based?
That was in London.
Oh, you had to
Um,
go back. You had to go back to that big place.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of planning on going back to London anyways, because I think after 3 years of partying and being in my bubble, I think I knew I had to go back to London because that's where a lot of the big jobs were, and I didn't know what kind of company I wanted to be in, but I guess you just have more opportunities there. So yeah, so I did get a job there, and it was really cool. It was in a publishing agency, so we did design for magazines and books for all the creative arts and culture clients and stuff like Tate Gallery, V&A, like all the top things that I would have been visiting anyways. We did like all their magazines and books. So it was like a dream job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess on paper. And as much as I loved all my colleagues and stuff, I also didn't really like how there was a lot of kind of office politics.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
kind of be a lot of times I'd be between like the art director and the boss, like the CEO, who'd have like different opinions, and they're kind of telling me to do different stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So it was quite hard in that sense. So
Yeah.
I think,
I think you get that in every office kind of
yeah,
thing, don't you? If you have two different opinions and you've got the mediator in the middle or the person that's supposed to be doing the job, and it can be really stressful if you've got A and B
yeah,
arguing and believe that they're both equally of the higher rank.
hmm,
And so you're sat in the middle listening, do this. So you
yeah,
go to do this, and the other one says, no, I want it this way. Which one to choose? But then it's you that's coming home stressed because you're professional. You want to get a
hmm,
job finished, and you can't. You're going to get told off. You can't do wrong for doing right. You're going to get told off
hmm,
by somebody because you've not done what they've wanted.
yeah.
And yeah,
And I was also
yes,
quite a people pleaser as well. So I wanted to, like, well, I guess also because they're above me as well. I wanted to make sure that they liked what I was doing. But then I think also being in that job, I didn't really find my creative voice in a way, because obviously there's someone above you who's the creative director. So it's their style that you're trying to kind of churn out and work on. And even though you have a bit of flexibility, it's they're not really listening to your ideas as much as they would like to, because there's not enough time, or they are trying to please their client. So yeah, it was quite a struggle in that sense. Yeah,
So how long did you work there?
for 4 years, and I got my way up to senior designer. And yeah, as you can imagine, I just avoided all the pitches and stuff because I did not like public speaking, which was never going to happen. But I did end up looking after some of the junior designers and managing schedules and kind of managing workflow and everything. So I think doing all of that really helped me to kind of take a step back from the design and see how everything ran. So then after 4 years, I quit, not because I didn't like the job, but because I wanted to go traveling. So I quit with the intention of maybe going back or finding another job. But no, I just went traveling instead and then never actually got a job again.
Oh,
Out of
wow.
my
I
choice.
mean, that's brilliant. That's the kind of thing that people want to do now, isn't it?
Mm,
This whole digital nomad stuff, if they can do it. So
yeah.
before we go on to your freelance and your, I wanted to say job, but it's not a job; it's your business now. Where did you go when you went traveling?
So I did 6 months from India to the Philippines. So I did like, yeah, about 9 countries or something in 6 months, which is insane. But I wasn't working on the go. I didn't know what freelancing was then. So I was just backpacking, looking after my money and everything and having the best time, like taking all the different cultures in, just, yeah, being amazed at everything I saw. I love them. I love Asia. It's great.
Do you think you would have
Yeah.
done that if your mum and your family hadn't, or you hadn't persuaded you to take that step from Bahrain to go to university?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's moving from one country to the other because even when we were growing up, so my dad's Saudi and my mom's British, so I think we were always moving between the two worlds, anyways. Especially every summer, I'd come back to the UK. But since a very young age, we would go on a lot of holidays and stuff because my parents love travel and they know that travel is like such a big education, like
Mm.
way of learning. So I think I've always had that travel bug. But I guess saying that my little brother doesn't have that. So maybe it's not that. Maybe I just love taking in different things when I travel. But I think it was always going to happen anyways. But maybe going backpacking, I was with an ex then, so it wasn't by myself. I think I would have been a bit scared to do by myself. But maybe, yeah, jumping into moving country to England and jumping into the London bubble and stuff, maybe that did kind of make me a bit more confident to do stuff like that.
So when you came back to England, so you finished your travelling around, what made you decide to come back to England and not go back to Bahrain?
I was never going to live in Bahrain. I do not speak the language, which is Arabic. I'm not very, I'm way more of a British person. Yeah, I don't really connect that much with Arab people. I mean, I have Arab friends, but I'm way more of a British girl. And I think I just, I just always wanted to be in a place where there's so much flexibility to kind of do things as women. I
Mm.
think in the Middle East, especially Saudi, the idea of not being able to drive, at least then, or at least have the autonomy to kind of do what I want to do. I just was really away. I wanted to get away from that as much as possible. So it was always going to be somewhere Western. I mean, I did think about going to America at one point, but I think, yeah, I think that would have been too far away from my family. At least
Yeah.
England was a bit closer. Yeah,
Yeah, and well, and the way that America's going, you're probably in the
yeah,
better place.
exactly.
So you came back from traveling, you landed back in the UK. What made you change your mind about going back to work? What made you want to start your own business?
Yeah, so well, I guess even just mentioning that I wanted to start my own business, I had like people in my family who've always started their businesses, entrepreneurs and stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to be that kind of business person. That's like not in me. So I never really thought of it like that. But it's weird that now that's pretty much what I'm doing. But yeah, I think when I was traveling, you meet people who've been traveling for like years, and I found out that there was a thing called freelancing, which a lot of people did. A lot of it was people who were blogging, which was not what I wanted to do really, but people who were freelancing and traveling for like a few years by doing stuff like design. So
Mm.
that's when I was like, ooh, maybe I can continue traveling forever and working at the same time. So I decided to kind of give myself 6 months to see if that would work. I went home to live free with my family. Thank God I had that opportunity. And I just said, right, I'll try and do it for 6 months, tell everyone that I'm freelancing if anyone needs a website or design stuff. I'm here. And then I think after 6 months, it was like starting and stuff. So I decided to keep continuing on really and
Who did
became
you
a
find
freelancer.
sort of came to you? Did you have more agencies come to you or individuals?
I think it was mostly individuals. I think I was really good at just kind of telling everyone to tell other people. So yeah, a few of them were really small, like micro businesses. I was really lucky enough to have a friend who worked in Lucky Voice, the karaoke, and they said, "Oh, can you do a poster?" So I said, "Yeah, sure." I didn't really know how to do that style that they wanted, but I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll try it out." And I was lucky because that kind of turned into quite a regular thing. So I had that as a backup to do some work with them quite often.
Mm.
So I think that was lucky. But they're a proper company, so I guess they don't really fit into the micro business bubble. But
Yeah, well, to be honest, you can't have. I don't think that it's possible to say. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's like when people go on about having your niche.
Hmm.
I know. So I always say to people, you pick something. You've got your ideal clients, and yes, that's who you're pitching to, so that you
Yeah.
know how to talk.
Hmm.
It doesn't, and so for me, it's creative freelancers
Hmm.
because I I learned that freelancers when heard about freelancing and realized that that's what I was doing. Except VAs quite often go under that they're a small business or they become regulated and become a limited company. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to get anything complicated. I
Hmm.
just wanted to do stuff to help people. And I
Hmm.
watched and I noticed that so many creatives and freelancers and small businesses, micro businesses, don't take help because they think they're on their own, they don't need to.
Yeah.
And then with COVID, people started to learn that outsourcing was, oh my God,
Hmm.
you can get a lot more done if you outsource
Hmm.
it while I go do something else. And I think that worked a lot with graphic designers and copywriters.
Yeah.
And, we all started to grow. And I mean, I know the freelance community's been out there a long time and wasn't just invented due COVID. But I do believe that everybody sort of like piled onto the digital world a lot faster that and grew that way. So I say to people when they come to me and they say, "Oh, I would really like to work with you, but I'm not a creative freelancer." And it's like, okay, well, I'm not picky. So
Yeah.
yes, when I say that that's my ideal client, that's purely for my marketing. But if my marketing has appealed to you
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
not a creative freelancer, I don't care. What do you want me
Yeah.
to do? So, I've got an app developer, I've got an architect, I suppose they are creative. And when I was talking to another lady that I've interviewed, we both agreed creative freelancer doesn't mean graphic designer, copywriter. You've got creative thinking, you've got creative
Mm.
problem solving. Anybody is creative. They just
Yeah.
don't
Exactly.
realize that what they're doing falls under the creative thing. So it's the
Yeah.
same with you. You pitch to individuals, maybe small businesses. So every now and again, you got a big business. Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you're not going to take the big business because you only
Yeah.
work with
Exactly.
individuals and small people.
Yeah.
Not small
Especially
people, small businesses.
especially at the very beginning as well, I was really kind of, I didn't have, like, I wasn't specifically targeting anyone. I was just trying to get any work because all
Mm,
I'd ever worked before, like, all I'd ever done before was worked in an agency where projects come to you. So I
mm,
never had that experience of trying to find work. So I was just taking everything and anything because I guess I needed that experience of trying to bring in the work. And then I'd realize maybe what was working more or what kind of clients I didn't really like so much. I'll just try and find less of them. So it was very much like trial and error. And I think
mm.
everyone needs to do that at the very beginning is just try it out and then you'll realize which ones you like working with more and which ones you
Yeah,
don't.
it's like an evolving thing. What I started
Hmm.
with was different kinds of creatives, and then I've come along to this. I know people that they started in 2020 with one kind of work, but then they've not so rebranded. But quite a lot of the businesses I first started out with have rebranded in a way, not
Hmm.
because they've got bored of their branding or anything like that. They've just realized, okay, now I know what I
Yeah.
want and who I want to work with. People don't know in the beginning, do they really? When you first start, you haven't got a clue. You've never experienced this before. So how do you know
Yeah.
what's going to work?
And I think it's quite scary as well because, like, I remember when I was a freelancer at the very beginning, you'd see people who had specific niches or they had specific target audiences, and I was like, I don't know what my or like I don't know who I want to target. Like, I didn't really know, and I felt like there was so much pressure to figure that out from the beginning
Mm,
because I needed to figure out so that I could do that for the rest of my freelance career, and not realizing that it's going to keep changing. Every year you do stuff, you're going to tweak things about you, or you might realize actually what, like, that's what I want to try and do, but is it really deep down what I actually want to do? So yeah, I think it was just
I
quite
think
scary at the beginning.
I think we could describe it as that even though obviously freelancers are working and small businesses are working, obviously we're all working. I think businesses and those that have been not trademarked. What is it when you become a limited company? There's a special
Registered.
word, registered as a
Yeah.
limited company.
Yeah.
They're more rigid because they're registered and that's
Mm.
what their business is.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are in it might change, but ultimately the box that they've created is that's what they're going to be. Whereas freelancers, I feel, are more fluid.
Mm.
We're flexible. You can work with who you want to, just like you
Yeah.
can work when and where when you
Yep.
want to, which is, is why there is a growing movement of
Mm.
freelancers because people have discovered, well, didn't know this existed, and this has given us more freedom. So I think you either
Yeah.
fit into one or the other. So obviously you've
Mm.
experienced the one, and yeah, it was okay, but you
Mm-hmm.
wanted the autonomy and you liked the
Yeah.
fluidness because of the whole traveling. So it obviously was the right place to position yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I love that, like, yeah, freelancing is just, it's kind of like you're listening to yourself. And if you need to change something about it, you can change it. But like, you're really giving that space to listen to what it is you want to do, how you want to work, who you want to work with, and not having to put a label on it. That's what I love about freelance, I think.
And if you don't like the person, you could just say goodbye. You don't have to go
Exactly.
to special meetings to
Yeah.
try to work it through and talk to
Yeah.
your line manager. That kind of rigid sort of office kind of stuff. So when did you said you rebranded? Why? What was your layout before you rebranded when you first started?
Yeah, so for a long time I was hannahdossary.com because I guess I'm the only one with that name. So I thought, oh yeah, that's really cool. It's unique and everyone is like hiring me, so that's my name. So I always had that. But yeah, I think I was, like I said, I was trying to do everything and anything. I tried to just kind of focus on doing marketing design, which didn't really have a ring to it because no one really like it's not a thing. I don't think it's like a specific niche, or no one really says they're the marketing designer because you can design anything really, and marketing is so big. So I kind of had, actually around COVID time or just before, I was living in Australia and I did this intense course to try and figure out what niche I wanted to kind of work in, or try and figure out my why and all that stuff. And I had to like really dig deep and figure out who I wanted to work with, look at past clients, which ones did I really like working with, and I had to really, yeah, dig deep, like I said. And I thought I wanted to kind of go into one area, tried it out, did a little bit of branding. Someone did some branding for me, and then I just realized that actually it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do game design, which sounds cool, but it's just other, like a whole other world, and I just was not that much of a game geek. Like I wasn't in it that much. Um, Maybe one day.
My husband's background is I've been with him a long time and he was a games programmer. So I
Oh,
have hung around with a lot of game designers and what's involved in. And for you to
yeah.
mention at this sort of point in your life after all that design that you wanted to be a game designer, would have thought, oh, have you been doing anything like that before now?
I know, like I like games, but liking games and creating games is completely different. And I realized really quickly, actually, that's not what I want to do at all. So yeah, it took
Mm.
quite a while from starting that course to figure it all out. And I, even after I think what 5 or 6 years of being a freelancer, I still felt like so much pressure to figure it out. And should I change my name? Should I don't know, rebrand? Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I think like because that seed had been planted in my head from that course, I think after a while, maybe I worked on a project for someone, I realized, oh, I really like what they do, or I like working with them. And I realized that instead of it being like a group of people that I liked working with, it was the brand values that they had in common, which was like, you know, play and joy and fun. And that's what all their businesses all have in common. I was like, oh, okay, there's something there. Like, I think that's always been throughout my life. a big kind of part of me that I didn't realize. So obviously I had to do
Mm.
the deep stuff. And yeah, so I thought rather than being Hannah Dossary, which means nothing to anyone unless they know me, I was like, I'm gonna just try out changing my name. And I thought I think by then I was very much more in the mindset that if I try it out and it's a bit silly and it doesn't work, that's fine. I'll just change it after a while. But I thought I might as well try it now, see it, just jump into it head first and see how it goes. So yeah, I changed to Shiny Happy Digital, which I think is really clear what it does. And I kind of did all the work to figure out my brand values and my kind of mission and everything. Got a brand designer to do actually I got a logo done, which I thought was a brand then. Didn't realize later on that it wasn't fully a brand. And I did got a copywriter involved and went head on. And then yeah, I think since then, people have really liked the name and like kind of where I'm going. So I had a proper rebrand 2 years ago, actually. Shit, that was a long time ago now, with a brand designer called Laura from Zigzag. And I think that was like the first experience of having outsourcing to someone and getting it done properly. So I not just had a logo, but I had like all the things around it that just make me so excited to use my brand. So since then I've kind of gone all out and yeah, been outsourcing. So I outsourced my brand photos, copywriting. I even get someone to help me out with like social media and stuff. So I think from then I realized I need to get more people involved because there's people out there who are really good at what they do, and I cannot be good at everything. So
Exactly. I mean, when I first started and I used to be on Clubhouse chatting, I would say to people, do you have a cleaner? And some people would say yes. I go, okay, that's outsourcing. I'm not saying that you're a dirty bugger and you don't know how to clean. What you've chosen to do is to get someone who's better at it than you or likes
mhm,
it more than you, and you've got them to do it. And in the time that you would have been cleaning,
mhm,
you're doing something that you're good at. And it's the
mhm,
same with do you have your food shopping delivered? You're outsourcing your food shopping. You may pick it on a computer, but someone else is picking it and packing it and delivering it. And while that's happening, you're doing something else that needs to
yeah,
be done so that your weekends aren't completely taken up. So I was trying to get them to sort of visualize that in their
mm,
everyday life.
mhm,
And then it's the same with, I'm a VA, people outsource to me to do things for them, but I outsource.
yeah,
I have a VA that helps me with jobs that will be taking me time, but I could be doing things that are more complicated. And so
yeah,
that they do that for me while I'm doing something else.
yeah,
I outsource this podcast. Yes, I set it up and yes, I record it and yes, I do a hell of a lot of talking, but I've got a producer and an editor that edits it for me. I'm trying to think, what else do I outsource? Oh, yeah, I outsource to a copywriter. I cannot work for all of my clients and write a load of blogs.
and work on your
So,
own business as
and work on
well.
my own business. So I outsource to Tansy, who is a freelance copywriter. She does one, I do one. So I have two a month. One's me, one's her. There's no
Nice.
way I could do two a month, but it's quite good for your website to try and do them more frequently. So
Yeah,
I hear. So that's what I try and do. So I outsource and I get somebody that's good at writing and understands SEO a hell of a lot better than I do.
yeah,
So, and all of these things, yes, you don't sometimes see return on investment straight away, but it's all a buildable thing. So these
yeah,
things have to be done, and you haven't got the time to do it and
mhm,
earn the money to be
yeah,
able to do it. But a lot of people sort of have that closed mindset that will not outsource to anybody because they think they cannot afford it. And I
mhm,
don't think that they don't sort of see the bigger picture of it. That
yeah,
yes, you may spend £25 now, like say for an hour's work, but in that hour, if you're charging 30, you've made a profit of £5 there by just doing
yeah,
whatever you want, kind of thing. And there's a little increment amount. And as you grow, obviously you can outsource more and everyone becomes project managers and can use things. So yeah, I'm all about the outsourcing. I don't see why anybody, and I'm not just saying this for like my own career, though it is helpful. It's for everybody's why burn out trying to do everything if you
yeah.
can afford a little bit of help
I know
in one way.
that's the thing as well because like when you're trying to run your own business, you hear all these people kind of telling you about what you should be doing for marketing, like blogs and email and everything. You think like you can get kind of overwhelmed with where am I going to get time to do all that stuff? So like if you can outsource some of the stuff that can be done by someone else, so that you're using that time to think and do the things that you can do best.
Mm.
I mean, then at least you're outsourcing to someone who's a specialist at what they do, and it's just no brainer, really.
Yeah, yeah, makes
Yeah,
complete sense to me. But I've got to say, I was tight. So in the beginning, it is hard when you first go into business for yourself to get round that. Well, I haven't got the money. I
yeah,
haven't got the money. But eventually, when you start doing the spending, you sort of think, oh, right, oh, that's been
hmm
a good month. Oh, that would be because I had more time to do this.
yeah,
Going back as well to when you were saying about the brand design, I was like you. There is, and this is one of the reasons I started the podcast. There are so many jobs out there and so involved that you just didn't understand. I did not understand that a brand was not a logo
yeah,
and a logo was not a
yeah,
brand,
yeah,
or colour psychology,
yeah.
or values, missions,
hmm
visions. Because I used to think mission and vision isn't surely that's all the blooming same stuff. So complicated, and I think it's a bit of an injustice to designers, brand designers, and everything, to sort of say, oh yeah, I'll just do it on Canva. It's like, well, yeah,
yeah,
you can slap a logo together in a few shapes, but it won't last. It's good when you first start out to make do,
yeah,
but eventually, if you're doing well, it's best to go to the professionals and get it done
yeah. And I
correctly.
think like it is definitely a good way to kind of start. Try and do it yourself if you can, and if you don't have the budget and stuff. But there's going to be a point where your client or your customer is going to be expecting more from you. So like especially with web design, I get a lot of people who have already tried to do their own websites, which is great. There's lots of platforms out there like Squarespace that make it really easy for you to do your own website. But like for me, as I don't do branding, it's a whole other kind of skill set. If I was to try and do my branding myself, there's loads of things I don't know why things are supposed to be the way they are. So I'm doing disservice to myself and my own business if I try and do it myself. Whereas if I can
Mm,
get someone who has all that knowledge, like if someone finally came to me as a web designer to try and either fix their website or do a new website, they're getting someone who knows this area in and out. So I'll be able to kind of know exactly why things are the way they are and not just building a website. So yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely important to have someone who knows what they're doing
yeah. Because
eventually.
getting it done the right the first time, you're gonna have less hassle in later years, aren't you? Trying to figure it
Yeah.
out. So, well done on your rebrand. Well done on being on the
Thank you.
socials because you've been seen. What advice then would you give? And it can be a woman in her middle age, like myself, or someone that's coming up through school that has obviously got so many more opportunities now. What would be your advice to them, either about running a business or about being a web developer or doing design at uni? What advice would you give to them?
I would definitely say get out there and meet other people who not even in your specific industry, but other people who are trying to go the same route. Maybe they're also trying to be a freelancer or they're trying to run their own business. Get other people around you who are on the same path as you, because then you can all kind of share in your experience together. And I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of kind of bouncing ideas off, or having someone to complain about a client, let's say, when you haven't got colleagues. I think
Yeah.
having that, even though you go as a freelancer and you think everything's going to be by yourself, you don't realize how much you actually need people.
Mm,
So creating a network of people that you can rely on for anything that you might need, whether it's advice or just a natter or whatever, co-working, anything like that would be really good.
it was like I have a husband, but if I ever try and get anything out of him, and he works in computers, but if I ask him anything, he's like, "Oh, I don't get it. I don't get
Yeah,
social media. I don't know what you're doing." So I had to find my people that I could talk to because I can't
yeah,
go to him. It's a sort of you've got to have somebody that's living the same life to an
exactly.
extent to be able to get what you're trying to say.
And
Have
also
you got
like
any?
finding other people as well who are like you in a way. Not only people who are like you, but like you said, you don't want people who are maybe completely different sense of humor, or you want people who could be your friends, who you can chat to and stuff. But when I say try and find people, I don't mean like networking in a really boring traditional way, but there's loads of different ways of networking, just meeting people and connecting like on a real level. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you could go to the old-fashioned networking event. We will not name the big companies that say you can only have one person of that industry in
Yeah.
that room, because it's networking. I think it's about, yes, finding clients, but it's also about finding connections, finding peers, finding friends, finding people that came before you that you could learn from, and people
Hmm.
behind you that you could help
Yeah.
bring up with you. Whereas I think that old model doesn't allow for. It's sort of a bullying kind of model, and I've never been into that kind of model of
Yeah.
networking. I sort of have that, because people sort of say, oh, how did you know what persona to have, or blah blah. It's like, I never did anything different. It's obviously worked really well as the whole be authentic and be yourself came about as a trend, when that's all I've ever been. That's all I ever will be, because I'm too lazy to pretend to be anybody else. So if
Exactly.
you don't like how I talk when I'm on my stories, or how I talk on these podcasts, then you're probably not going to enjoy working with me, because
Yeah.
yes, obviously I do have a professional level, but I am going to say what I think. If I think that you're going down the wrong route, or I could do something better, I'm going to come forth and say it, because that is just what I'm like.
Mm.
And so I think being yourself like that, you're going to. I've lost my train of thought completely there.
What you just said reminded me of something we were talking, I think, before we started recording, about wearing colourful clothing and being, little Dauphine dressing. And I think like when I rebranded to my business name, I obviously have a really colourful brand and everything, but at home maybe I wear lots of black, and I'm not very fashionable and stuff. So I
Oh, I
realized that.
never said I was fashionable. I just said I liked wearing dungarees that were very
Yeah, like
colourful.
maybe I don't think about my fashion choices so much. I wear an old knackered top, and I think changing my rebrand and stuff, I realized that's where I want to go. So I was like, maybe I'm gonna try and do some things to help me get there. So I invested in some colorful clothing. I went to a Comic Con
Oh.
in the yellow dungarees that you would have liked.
Yes, yes. I was just about to say to you, let's the Christmas party this year. Let's go in dungarees, but you've already done it by
Yeah.
going to a Comic-Con in dungarees and embracing that in a colour.
Exactly. And I think even though it might seem a bit scary, especially when you like most of the world is very like dull and stuff, but in our little bubble, everyone's so colorful. I think having to put on that like colorful uniform makes me kind of get out of my comfort zone in a good way. Like makes me
Mm.
want to go where I'm trying to go, and then I'm not so scared to like wear color everywhere else.
See, I have it the other way as well. I find that the dungarees and the colour and all that lot, it's like armour. So
Yeah.
and I'm not saying everybody's the same, but when you're in standard normal, whatever normal is work, and there's certain rules, you
Yeah.
find that there's more judgment. Whereas I've found, since going and sliding across to the whole freelance side, that there isn't. Or if there is, they say it to your face and you can laugh about it if you've done something wrong. They're not whispering, or they're not making you feel uncomfortable. They accept you for what you are, and they might turn
Yeah.
around and say to you, I really don't like that outfit, but hey, that's you. We like you. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And they
Yeah.
just accept you for you. So with that, I've become stronger with my dungarees. So like
Yeah.
wearing my dungarees wherever I go now when it's a social setting, purely because it makes me feel stronger inside to do that whole anxious meeting people.
Yeah,
So,
and even with that as well, like I can be quite a shy person as well, especially like when I'm in such a big group of people and I don't know anyone. So like I know that it's going to take a lot for me to kind of get out there and talk to someone. So maybe wearing colorful clothes is my way of people coming to me and be like, "Oh, I like that top," or "I like the
which is
dungarees." So I'm like,
exactly what you
"Yeah."
did to me. Because my first sort of social gathering was at a freelancing Christmas party in
Mhm.
December, and I chose to wear my dungarees. And I can remember I was stood at the bar, and you came up to me and went,
Yeah.
I love your yaks. And that's how you
Exactly.
introduce yourself. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what you described. I never thought people would come up to me, but there was about 3 people came up to me and went, oh, I've seen you on Instagram, love your dungarees. And it's like, oh, Thank you. And I still feel it was like, oh my God, people watch me. Oh dear God, they've noticed me. But it was nice because I wouldn't have approached you because I was feeling nervous. So by
Yeah,
you being, and obviously you're an introvert, and so if you hadn't done that to me, we might not have talked that night.
yeah,
But because you stepped forward and did it, I was
mhm,
then able to turn to you. And once that first conversation had started,
yeah.
then I felt comfortable talking to you and going off and singing karaoke with you later on. That none of that would have happened really if you hadn't stepped up. So just think, if you're wearing that colourful clothing, it's like Star Wars. Passing it to you as you wear that colourful clothing and you embrace the colourful person that you want to be. Someone's
Mhm.
going to come along and might come up to you and say, "Oh, I saw your Instagram. I love your yaks,"
Yeah,
and then you
it's
can
an
talk
invite,
to
isn't it?
them. Yeah,
It's also a
yeah, really.
conversation starter, if anything, you know, just something for someone to be like, oh, well, you know, if you don't know what to say, like you don't know who the person is, then be like, oh, I like your outfit. Because who's ever going to feel bad about someone saying like that? You know, they're always gonna be like, oh, thanks. At Comic Con, there were so many people with amazing outfits. I'm going to go bigger next year.
Well, as we all know, I didn't get to go to Atomic Con this year, so my outfit was all planned. So I was going to wear that. But if you're going to go bigger, then I'm going to have to sort of like bypass what I was going to do this year, and I might have to go buy new dungarees and go bigger next year, even though I've not had a base level to try.
Well, it's
How
a
can
good
you go bigger
excuse.
than bright yellow dungarees? That's
Yeah.
pretty noticeable. I had decided I was going to be wearing my blue dungarees with the bees and the flowers on them. That's
Oh,
what
nice.
I was going to wear. But by then, I might have lost weight, gained weight. Don't Who knows? Might be Luciniac. You might have designed another dungaree that I must
Yeah.
wear for my collection.
Well, you can
So
always
we
wear
never
different
know.
outfits. It's a few days, so you've
Yeah,
got
that's
lots of
true.
outfits ready.
It's it's like a holiday, like you were saying earlier. I
Yeah.
go to a Tomicon. I don't need to work. I'm going to go to a Tomicon and talk to people. Well, thank you for being interviewed by me. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and as you could see by the fact I went off tangents of all the questions, is that when somebody says something really interesting that piques I end up asking them loads of questions. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry
definitely.
that I didn't stick to my five. That's a
No,
bit more than
I
I should
love
have done.
I love going off on tangents anyways. I'm quite like that. So it's nice just yeah, going into a deep hole of something random topic. It was great
Well,
chatting to you as well.
thanks to Hannah.
Thank you, bye.